Hello everyone, we have a game with the black pieces against Pookie Panda, rated 905. We're going to develop a knight and attack his pawn. He defends it with f3. He already plays very weird, but we'll just continue with our standard g6. He develops the queen, which attacks nothing, and Wolfie and Keto continue our plan. He brings the knight to the side, offering us the possibility of messing up his pawn structure, but undefending the b7 pawn. I see no reason to do that. Let's just castle. He now puts extra force here, but the pawn is well defended, so we'll just develop and we'll threaten knight a5. He adds a third attacker to the f7 point, but this is a very noobish thing to do, as I have not played e5 yet. This gives me the extra possibility of playing e6, stopping everything. He sacrifices, because why not? And we'll take the piece. He can't take with the queen, so he takes with the knight. We'll take the piece, he'll take with the queen here. And now we could just move our king onto the dark squares where our bishop covers all the dark squares. And he has two pawns and we have a knight. But he also has a pawn presence in the center, so a lot of you might mess this up, right? But at the end of the day, we're up a piece. So let's develop our queen, contest the light squares because we don't have a light square bishop. He takes, we recapture, but this knight backwards is good for us because it has no forward squares and it can't walk into a pawn push, and it opens our bishop. So lots of good things. He puts his bishop here staring into our position, but we can get in the free h6, creating some space for our king. So now he moves the bishop onto this diagonal, but we don't have an f pawn here, so that's a free bishop. Now we're up two pieces. The game is completely over. And, I mean, you can do whatever you want. This knight is misplaced, but we'll just wait till he pushes because noobs are likely to do that. In the meantime, you can play a move like a5, gaining queenside space, or rook in the center. I'm going to throw in a5. You're up 4 points of material. You can do what you want. And as mentioned, noobs love to do this, which is only helpful to my position, as now my knights have two new beautiful squares. So our knight is hit. We're going to immediately hop it into one of the beautiful squares, because you can't go from c6 to c5 with one move. So we go here. The other knight can occupy this square. He develops his knight, which is not going anywhere. We could improve our knight, but let's improve our other knight. Now we have just beautiful pieces. He puts his knight here, offering some types of trades, but his knight's terrible here. I guess it could go here, and we're up two pieces, so let's just take it. This opens up his rook on our pawn, but we'll get our knight in, create some threats, see what he wants. It also opens our bishop. So he attacks our pawn because our rook is unprotected, and so if we take that, we blunder our rook. However, we can also bypass. We could have protected. You could do whatever you want. He pushes his pawn, which isn't going anywhere, and now we can take this pawn, which defends backwards. There's tons of ways to win this. This pawn's hanging. Now the rook is x-rayed by the bishop. Let's throw in this check to disconnect his king's defense of the rook. If I could sack two rooks here, that would be mate, but that's just a pipe dream. Let's take this pawn and hit the rook. Now his whole queen side has collapsed. He counterattacks the knight. But I mean, you can move it wherever you want. Let's attack the rook. And our rook doesn't really belong here, but we only put it here to take a free piece. So he attacks the knight, which is defended. Here, here, here. Let's just push the pawn. A lot of you would automatically defend this. Don't. Just push your pawn. Oh no, another pawn is hanging. Push your pawn, get a queen, and checkmate the guy. And stop worrying about your pawns as if that has anything to do with the game. Pawns are relevant when the material, excuse me, when the position is even. Position's not even here when you're up 2 pieces. So he gets checkmated. He gets crushed pretty handily, but that's what happens when you make dumb moves like this. So hopefully you guys don't do that and you make developing moves. So let's jump into another game and see if we can climb a little bit against Amoraba, rated 930. We'll try to get a Rui Lopez. But instead, these players, they've never watched a chess video in their entire life, which I guess isn't a big deal. There's more important things than chess. So f6 takes, check. I already like white. Gets to move his king, check. I'm gonna sack my knight on move 3. He's gonna take, but the whole point is that he played f6, which severely weakens this diagonal. So I'm gonna give him my check. This square is extremely active for your queen. It just usually can't stay here. Here he kicks the queen, immediately losing the game, because this check immediately hits the rook. Now there is this check, king d1, big brain move, but instead he blocks with the knight, just giving up the rook with no counterplay at all. Okay, he's just trying to develop quickly. There is more free stuff. I am going to take it instead of developing, because I also don't, I want a second avenue for my queen. I don't want just this diagonal to be the escape. So now it's definitely will never get trapped. I took free stuff. His knight is pinned to this pawn. So now we can develop. And if I attack his knight to deflect it, I can pick up pawn intermezzo. Okay, so he covers this square. Let's just develop a new piece. We're up everything. You don't have to be too specific on the most accurate developing square. I mean, you should be, but it's not a big deal if you aren't when you're winning. So I'm just going to take a piece because we're up 8 points of material, and if he takes with the pawn, it messes his queen side castling. If he takes with the queen, it's fine for him, but after d3, I mean, everything's solid. My bishop's opening. His knight is defended once. This pawn is loose. The bishop is loose. Lots of stuff. I'm just going to develop, attack the knight twice, so it's hanging. I can castle in either direction. But I think short, even though there are 2 semi-open files, I think it makes more sense, oddly enough. So he defends the knight, but the knight defends the pawn, so we can start a chain reaction where we take both. So let's do that, removing another piece from the board. However, he recaptures. We take the pawn. Now the queen is tethered to the rook. Also, his bishop's hanging. Consolidating move bishop d7 takes care of those weaknesses, but is not aggressive or threatening to our position. It also removes control over the center, where we can then hop our knight in. However, I would castle first just because connecting the rooks is a smart thing to do. And you can see how our position is perfect and harmonious once we castle. So he does do this move I mentioned. Good find by him. I like it. Now that there's even less pressure on my queen side, I'm really thinking of just castling long instead of short. I have 3 connected outside pass pawns here. That's just worth a rook, easy, more. But let's say since they're still at home, we'll just say they're worth a rook. We're up 6 points technically, but much more positionally. So he moves his queen. Maybe the idea is to attack this pawn, but that can't be, you know, a really good move. You can even throw this in, but I'm going to keep my pawn chain intact. And I'm going to launch this pawn up the board. He has this check, and when you move the king, he takes it, you develop your other rook, he moves the queen, and then you put your rook on f7. So you give up the pawn, but you get super active. Alternatively, you can start with the rook. So let's just start with the rook. We're going to just launch this guy up the next 5 moves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, he throws in this move, so we're going to take one time out to just do this. If he gives a check, that also makes no sense. We're just going to hit it again. So maybe he'll go back or protect his king by going to d8. There's nothing for him to do here. He should definitely resign. He gives us this meaningless check, so now his last 2 moves helped our position. These 2 pawn moves help our position. He gives us this check, but after we move our king, now nothing's even hanging except his bishop. Yeah, 2 different ways his bishop's hanging, and his queen is misplaced on my side of the board. Nice move with the knight, hits the queen and improves it for free. I like that a lot. Also, we can just continue with the pawn pushes, but I'm going to throw this in as it double hits. Trades or wins for us as we're completely winning, and we have perfect harmony with our pawn structure. Okay, queen goes deeper into our position, attacking a pawn, but we don't care. We're just going to take this with check. He doesn't even take back, which is insane, I want to say. I guess we'll just save the knight. I mean, he gave us another free piece for no reason. Now he's just taking pawns, but this creates an open file. So instead of pushing my pawn, I'm going to utilize that file. He has to go back to one of these useless squares in my position. I guess the best one would have been here, pressuring the rook still. But now he's just here. Almost trapped, but not quite. I'm going to throw in a check because it coordinates with the knight once he moves. Also, he's not pressuring my rook, so I can just increase the pressure. I could even go to the back rank, just forcing the rook trade, just to try to quicken things up. You see, if he had moved his queen here, at least I couldn't make this move because of my rook would hang with mate. So I would have to spend another tempo or something. But because he wasn't accurate, and that's why it's important to make accurate moves. So he moves his queen to eye the king, but there's clearly nothing going on. I mean, every move is winning, but let's just take his rook. And now we'll just threaten checkmate in 1 with the queen. Okay, he blocks it this way. That's fine. I'm going to throw this cheeky move in because if he does this, which is natural, I get to throw in this intermezzo check. And what happens is I also have this check, and his queen is hanging. So I get to take the queen with check, or give him this. Well, actually, no, because he could take my knight there, because he went to the right. I was expecting him to go to the left. But in any case, this is check, and my queen gives this check, forcing this. We just double stack the bishop's pin, so he has to make a king move. But now we disconnect the king from the bishop. Also, there's got to be checkmate patterns here. Instead, he goes this way, avoiding checkmate patterns one way, but I'll just get him the other way. And he's insistent on playing this to the end. So he wants to escape, we won't allow it. And then this, okay, he wants to go there. Check. Mate, another pawn checkmate. We love to see pawn checkmates. So this was a fun game for us, but not for our opponent. Whenever they do this, it's only move 2, but already tactics are in the air because you immediately weaken your king. So we just take, remember the sequence, right? Because people do this at these low ranks. They play the F pawn, you just sack the knight, and you go here. If they play their pawn, you take the rook. If they don't, they have to move their king up. You still take the pawn with check. At the very least, you have 2 pawns for the knight, and once you give this check, his king has to go to f7. You can develop the bishop with check. It becomes terrible either way. So keep that in mind. If your opponent doesn't develop, look at the weaknesses they just created. Good luck in your chess. Submit your rapid games in my Discord. Goodbye.